All right, today we are diving into a leadership framework that can seriously transform your one-on-one coaching. It's called Radical Candor, and trust me, it gives a really powerful answer to one of the biggest challenges every coach faces.
You know this feeling, right? As a coach, you see a client's blind spot. That one behavior that's really holding them back. But you pause, you hesitate. How do you actually challenge them to grow without completely torpedoing the trust you've worked so hard to build?
It's like this fundamental tension, this tightrope that every single coach has to walk. On one side, you have this deep personal care for your client. And on the other, you've got to offer these direct, effective challenges that actually spark growth. I mean, if you lean too far one way, you're just not effective. Lean too far the other way, and you risk losing the client altogether.
Okay, so this is exactly where the Radical Candor framework comes into play. It basically says, hey, hold on a second. Care and challenge? They're not opposites. Instead, think of them as two totally separate things, two axes on a graph. And when you combine them in the right way, well, you unlock this incredibly powerful new way to give feedback that just fuels growth.
So how does this actually work in practice? Well, these two axes, caring personally and challenging directly, they create 4 different quadrants of communication. Let's break them down.
So here's the model. Super simple. You've got caring personally running up and down on the vertical axis, from low to high, and then challenging directly going across on the horizontal. Together, they make these 4 very different styles of communication. But here's the thing. Only one of them is the one we're really aiming for.
All right, first up, ruinous empathy. Honestly, this is the trap that so many well-intentioned coaches fall into. You care so much about your client's feelings that you dodge any real challenge. It feels nice, right? It feels kind in the moment. But it's actually ruinous. It's right there in the name, because it stops the very growth your client hired you to help them achieve.
Then, on the total opposite side of the spectrum, you've got obnoxious aggression. Think of this as all challenge, zero care. It's that brutal honesty vibe. You might be speaking the absolute truth, but your delivery is so harsh that it just obliterates any sense of trust or psychological safety. So even if the feedback is 100% accurate, it's never going to land. The trust just isn't there.
And down in that bottom left corner is frankly the worst place to be. Manipulative insincerity. This is where you don't care enough to be honest and you don't challenge at all. It's just inauthentic, maybe a little passive-aggressive, and it creates absolutely zero value for anyone.
And that brings us to our goal, the sweet spot, radical candor. This is high care and high challenge. It's this beautiful idea that you can challenge someone directly because you care about them personally. The message you're sending is, look, I'm telling you this because I care about you, I have high expectations for you, and I genuinely believe you can hit them.
Okay, so how do we actually get to radical candor? Well, it all starts with that first foundational piece of the puzzle, what it really means to care personally in a coaching relationship. Now, let's be clear. Caring personally doesn't mean you have to be best friends with your client. Not at all. It's a professional competency. It's about seeing them as a whole person, having genuine curiosity about what makes them tick, what their motivations are, and even being willing to be a little vulnerable yourself. That is what builds the rock-solid trust you need to make those direct challenges actually work. So, for example, instead of jumping right into the weekly goals, imagine asking a question like this one. See how that just goes so much deeper? It helps uncover those core motivations and shows your client, hey, I see you as more than just your job title.
And here are a few more great ones. Just look at how these questions link professional goals to what really matters to a person. Their values, their dreams outside of work. You're building that holistic picture. And that's how you actively lay down that foundation of care and trust.
All right, so once you've built that foundation of trust, now you've earned the right to fire up the real growth engine of this whole framework, challenging directly.
Now, this is absolutely crucial for any coach to understand. Challenging directly does not mean giving advice. No, it's about reframing your feedback into these powerful, open-ended questions. So instead of just giving praise, you're sparking inquiry. And instead of offering criticism, you're prompting reflection.
So, for example, instead of just saying, hey, great job, which is fine, but a question like this invites the client to actually dig in and analyze their own success. They're the ones identifying their strengths. They're the ones who get to own the win. And that makes the insight so much more powerful and sticky.
And here's what a challenge looks like in this model. Notice, we're not saying you really should stop doing that. Instead, we're asking them to look at the impact of their own behavior and think about what might happen if they tried something different. The aha moment becomes theirs, not yours, which, let's be real, is the whole point of great coaching. Okay, so we've covered the theory. We get the quadrants. Now, let's get super practical. How can you make this a real, living, breathing part of your coaching practice, like starting with your very next session?
First thing to remember, radical candor has to be a two-way street. You can't just dish it out. You create this kind of relationship by inviting it first. So number one, you got to model that vulnerability. Ask for feedback on your own coaching. Second, ask for it directly, no beating around the bush. And third, and this is maybe the most important part, when they give you that candid feedback, you have to reward it. Thank them, show them you heard it, and actually take it seriously.
And if you want the gold standard question for inviting candor, this is it. It's so simple, so direct, and it is unbelievably effective. It totally empowers your client and strengthens that coaching partnership right away. Okay, here's a really cool, kind of meta technique you can use. Start using the language of the framework inside your sessions. Asking a question just like this one gives you a real-time gut check on how you're doing. Plus, it teaches your client what this kind of powerful communication looks and feels like.
And listen, you can weave this into the very fabric of your practice. Put it right in your coaching agreement from the start. Share the quadrant visual with your clients so you have a shared vocabulary. Use it for those quick gut checks during a session. And hey, if you work with groups or teams, you can even run entire feedback circles based on these ideas.
Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. This is the goal. When you can combine that deep personal care with those direct, compassionate challenges, you create this incredible space where your clients can't help but thrive. You're building their resilience and just supercharging their growth, and you're doing it in a way that's both deeply ethical and just incredibly effective.
So, let's wrap this up with one final challenge, and this one is for you. Because before you can be radically candid with anyone else, you first have to be radically candid with yourself. So ask yourself, what is the one piece of feedback, the one tough truth that you've been avoiding giving yourself lately? Really think about that, because that right there, that's where all real growth begins.